cool. He's been in a lot of the all black national conventions. He also is well, I'm going to say real estate developer, but I'm going to let him tell you exactly what he does. All I'm going to say is he's a cool dude, and he actually is the first person to ever tell me you can make a skyscraper out of wood. I still don't believe you, Alan. You're gonna have to give me proof. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. Glad to be here. Hello to all the B1 family. And yeah, just happy to take this opportunity to be able to speak on what, Dr. Boyce Watkins is talking about in terms of risk when it comes to investing, but not necessarily traditional, but just investing our most important resource, our time and our energy,
Mm,
because that affects ultimately our health and our wealth,
yes,
and
it
so
does.
definitely just want to make sure that, when we're talking risk, we're talking about the number one to us, like I said, again, which is the time and the money. And I would say recovering real estate developer, Dr. Watkins, because
Recovering real estate developer. Explain more.
because what I did is I asked myself a question. You start to collect all of these things, and I said, well, how much is enough? And I said, I have enough. And so I just kind of stopped. And then with the passive income coming in, I kind of just used it as an opportunity just to have time to be able to do the things that I couldn't do when I was working on a corporate plantation, when I made that transition into entrepreneurship, when I built things up, I said, you know what? I have enough. Enough is enough. And so I will do the real estate development or anything if it's something that's going to further, the B1 cause. If it is
Mm.
something that is going to address some of the systemic issues that we've had, and if I have to get involved with it, I will. And that's really why I'm, here today is because I really believe in what you're doing. I've been to enough of the conventions to see that you really do, attract the intelligent black people. Not that I'm discriminating, just like you said, when it comes to not being black, it don't matter where you coming from. It's all love.
Yeah, well, and I want everybody to just know when I say that we reach out to intelligent black people, it doesn't mean you have to be the smartest person in the room. It doesn't mean you have to have all this education. I know a lot of educated fools. It
Yep.
does not mean you have to have a certain income level. It doesn't even mean you have to already be there in terms of intelligence. All it means really is that you value intelligence. Because you are what you're becoming, meaning that even if you're not as intelligent as you want to be, even if you don't know all the ropes and the rules that you need to know, we can show you those things. But you have to have a certain value system that says, one, I want to build my community, build my family, and I want to get better. That's it. We're looking for upwardly mobile people in the sense that I'm not talking about socioeconomic status. I'm talking about upwardly mobile when it comes to making improvements in your financial situation, breaking generational curses, improving your relationships, improving your mental and physical health, and then on top of that, improving your financial security and just saying to yourself that I'm not gonna let the generational curses continue under my watch. We the buck stops here. We're drawing the line in the sand. We moving forward. So give me a yes in the chat if you understand what I'm saying there. I overspoke it. I didn't mean to talk too long about that, but I want to make that 100% clear because I'll tell you, Alan, because I've had people. I literally again there was this former NBA player who literally made 12 videos about me in a 3 day period, and he kept calling me a snob because I said intelligent black people, and I said, what's wrong with a black man being intelligent? You ain't got no problem with a black man playing basketball. You play in the NBA. We ain't got no problem with black people rapping. We ain't got no problem with black people twerking. We ain't got no problem with black people telling jokes and being comedians. Why would you have a problem with black people being intelligent? And so I just told him, I said, I'm sorry that you're offended by that, but you're welcome to join us, but you got to have the right attitude. So, Alec, tell me about you. I know you are an intelligent black man. I've spoken to you on many occasions at the All Black National Convention and stuff like that. Tell me about the start of your career. Like, what did you do exactly in terms of, like, you mentioned the corporate plantation. What was your role?
Okay, okay. Just real quick, I want to jump on the bandwagon that you just kind of set up. So to me, with the Home for Intelligent Black People, to me, that's B1 intelligence. Let's start defining our own terms. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's what's your intelligent quotient or your IQ when it comes to putting black folk first. You know what I'm saying? And so let's speak in terms of that. And so when you go to some of these all black national conventions, it's literally like going to a black family reunion. Everybody is there to better themselves, to better their black families. and to move forward in this and not to get caught up in some of the rhetoric and some of the things that are going on around. I mean, you can't stop haters, you know what I mean? But what you can do is look out for your family. And that's what you do. So people in the B1 family that have that level of intelligence where they want to fight for the same things that you want to fight for because we all collectively are part of the same team. That's what I mean by intelligence. Just by put black first. How can I make sure that I'm using black folk for architects, engineers, whatever I'm doing, bankers, whatever it is, but doing it from like a no like trust relationship so that you make your friends before you need them. You understand what I'm saying? It might be a deal I might think is too big for me, but I met somebody that's B1. You know what I mean? It's going to come because they understand the end game. I'm working for the 100-year plan, the 500-year plan. I'm tired of seeing the average income of black households being the lowest. I want it to be the highest, but it's hard to do that if we don't come together on something. And I think the B1 movement is something to come together about. Granted, it's not a term that we gave ourselves, but you know what? It's the reality of it. And I think that collective movements like this are going to move the needle. So sorry I had to rant like that, but
That's
you
okay.
just hit something I'm very passionate about, which is, collective economics. You understand what I'm saying? But it takes a collective
Yes.
intelligence to be able to do that. To me, that's B1 intelligence. Now, back to my boring life.
No, not boring at all. Go ahead,
Okay.
brother.
Yep. So I was inspired as like a young kid. I grew up in the area called Idlewild, Michigan. And the significance of Idlewild, Michigan is it was once probably one of the original spots where black folk could own and control vacation property. It's where black folk went to vacation. You got Idlewild Lake, Paradise Lake, kind of started in the 20s. But it ramped up so much that a lot of people don't know this if you're not from there or haven't researched the history. In the 30s and 40s, it got to be so many black folk that wanted to come there to build vacation homes that black folk literally started a lumber mill and
Wow.
had and had a location where they sold lumber not only to the people that were building these homes, but then also the people in general. And it was a fully functioning city, that was just built out of black folk being able in a time where due to different social issues that fundamentally really haven't changed. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. But just to come together, just to be able to chill and relax and just be, you know what I mean, in an environment where
Mm.
you couldn't just be. And so growing up on the tail end of that in the 70s and the 80s, it just inspired me just in the unlimited potential of black folk, despite all of the unlimited atrocities done to us and our people, yet we still, move forward. And so what it did to me is it just taught me resilience, self-sufficiency, that, black is good, black is cool. It's not all about what the other people groups do because we've done it, we can do it. And so it carried, so that just stuck in me, and so you basically couldn't tell me that I couldn't do anything. And so when I decided as I got older, you know what, I think I like bridges. I want to go and position myself to be able to build bridges,
Mm.
and so it was just nothing for me to tap into that network that I had as like a young kid to some of the people that were civil engineers because that's what I studied in terms of like formal education. And I had that support network of people that had went there before me, for that encouragement. But I also had people tell me, look, you're also going in a direction where it's not a lot of us because I did have that entrepreneurial spirit. So the biggest thing about growing up in Idlewild, to go back to that, is it just identified in myself that I had an entrepreneurial spirit, but I had the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that I saw demonstrated by them, doing it under the conditions that they did it originally. Is that I firmly believe my opportunities come by creating opportunities for others. So that's what ultimately led me into the entrepreneurship, but then in a B1 way. Because if I'm creating opportunities for others, I want to create opportunities for others that are marginalized, underrepresented, in need of wealth accumulation and breaking generational curses and things of that nature. And so that's what, Idlewild instilled in me. I got a little bit down in the weeds because I kind of fell in love with building bridges a little bit too much. And so I was a late bloomer when it came to entrepreneurship. So I was in my 40s. I'm 53 now. I was in my 40s when I really got going good. And I started a construction company, yes, but I quickly transitioned that into a investment and development company to kind of get that passive income to get me out of the rat race. And then I realized through getting familiar with the Black Business School, getting a chance to meet you and others, that where it's really at is for us to pour into each other, reintegrate with each other, and then move forward to try to build our own economy and to try to have it so that we have some of the biggest businesses on the stock market. You know what I mean? And it might not happen now, but that's the 100-year, 500-year plan. We have to start somewhere. And I believe that, like, just like you, Dr. Watkins, are leaving behind a blueprint for others to pick up, I'm just trying to do the same thing with, with my circle of influence and just leave behind a blueprint of people that want to develop their communities. So, I like to work with people that want to build literally. And instead of seeing their communities being built by
Okay.
others, they can build it themselves.
Okay, so let's drill down on that. Okay, so in your corporate plantation career, you built bridges, is that correct?
Bridges, roads. I even got into some like commercial residential buildings. Yes, towards the end, yes. But
Okay.
primarily I did infrastructure, yes.
Okay, okay. And then you left the corporate plantation and you began your own construction company. Now, do you mind sharing the name of the company?
So the company was GeoGrade Constructors.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. And GeoGrade, okay, so you mentioned two things. You mentioned passive investing and then you mentioned more active projects. Can you talk about the active projects that you did, the ones that led you to want to buy your time back later on and stuff like that?
So the active projects that I did was just kind of like real estate. So this was aside from like the GeoGrade. This was like personal investing, was like real estate flips because I knew how to work with my hands and build stuff. People were always trying to get me to be a part of their real estate, flipping or purchasing real estate and stuff like that. And so they slowly just started to like bring me in and educate me on what a pro forma is and how you make money in real estate. And so when I saw that, I just started moving more and more towards flipping, buying, and holding. But I always did it as a part of a partnership because the one thing that I didn't learn or educate myself on was how to find the deals. And so for many years, even while I was still working on a corporate plantation, was always involved in some form of real estate flipping, investing, and stuff like that. I just transitioned that into a separate business down the line. But I'm glad that I got introduced to it the way that I did by like, partnering with people because I'm a firm believer is I move away from things to where it involves solo investing. And if it doesn't involve at least one other person, if not more, black folk, I tend not to I tended to not do it and I still don't do it. Why? Because to me, one of the best ways to deal with human error is to have multiple people looking at it that have the same goals in mind, that share the same vision. So a lot
Mm-hmm.
of those real estate deals that I was doing, you talking about having money for the family, you know what I mean? And I'm considering doing something else with it. And so I want to make sure that I'm evaluating risk by using, people that are probably smarter than me about it, before I move forward with it. And so that's why I believe, and also it is I would see people that would cling to individualism, and I see that being very disruptive in our community, and I just didn't want to be a part of that. I would rather take the risk of getting to know somebody, sharing each other's codes of conduct, so we can hold each other accountable when stuff goes wrong. It's like, hey, we said one of our code was we was going to be transparent. We were going to be always maintain open dialogue, whatever the case is. You want to get it up front before you do the deal, so that way, no matter how the deal goes, you're still able to come back to what brought us together in the first place, and is
Mm.
that still on the table, right? So. Long story short, a lot of my stuff was just like everybody else, just like investing on the side, and I eventually just had the means to be able to build the portfolio bigger and then walk away.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, so you like to you believe strongly in investing as a collective and instead of sort of doing things solo. And let's talk about that. So what I hear you referring to is something, that we economists refer to as risk sharing,
Mm,
where you know investing is risky And in order to minimize the impact of that investment, if things go bad, you share that risk with other people so that you kind of, so if things don't work out, which in many cases they don't, you're ready for that. And I want to ask everybody a quick question as we move forward with Alan Bean. Give me a yes if you understand clearly, if you feel like you really understand that investing is risky. Give me a yes if you understand that investing means you could lose your money. Give me a yes if you also understand that investors are not just people that are just where money's just raining out of the sky and life is easy for them. Investors are people that take chances. Investors are people that can live through the hard times. Even if you look at somebody like Elon Musk, Allen, he's the richest man on earth. His net worth right now is higher than Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos combined, right? But there have been times where he really, really, really took a lot of risk. He really took a lot of falls. He got his butt kicked pretty bad. In fact, he actually got to the point when he started SpaceX, he had $100 million that he made from selling PayPal, and he did something that I would never do. He actually he drew down 99 out of $100 million of that money. He was down to that last million because he had this dream of building a space company. And what people have to understand is that when you hear these stories, we get inspired. We're like, yeah, that means anything can be done. We can do it. But you got to understand that there's thousands of people that did the same thing he did and lost everything. Right. So number one, that's why I wouldn't take a risk like that. I would never take 100 million and drop it down to 1 million. I think you could be successful by taking more calculated risk. That's what you're looking for. But risk does not go away. And I think that's really important for people to get because what I noticed, Alan, and Dr., feel free to speak to this. I'm not even going to shape it as a question. I know you're smart. You got something to say on this for sure. Is that sometimes I'll hear people that will say, they'll talk about, for example, how much the CEO of the company or the boss makes relative to what the worker makes. Now, mind you, we do have a labor problem in this country. I think workers should make more money, but minimum wage should be increased, all these other things, right? Benefits should be better. But the thing about it is that if you are the entrepreneur and you risked everything, you put it all on the line to start this business, and then somebody gets mad because when the business does well, you get the bulk of the money. I don't know if that's a complete perspective to understand. Look, any of y'all could have started the business. If I work for you, Alan, and you're the boss, you're the entrepreneur, and I'm sitting back mad, like, wait, why Alan get most of the money? Well, I could have started the business too. I could have mortgaged my house and took my last penny and worked 12-hour days for free for 2 years, but I chose not to do that. I took a different path. And I think that sometimes people underestimate how much risk entrepreneurs and investors take in order to make money. So, Alan, could you kind of speak to some of that? And actually, before I even do that, I want everybody to know Amani from our support team is in the chat. And Amani, I see Veronica was sending you messages and ask you questions. So maybe you can get on the phone with her and talk to her. I want to give everybody the email address for our support team in case you have any questions about anything in the Black Business School. Write it down, write it down, write it down. It's support at theblackbusinessschool.com. And don't forget, there's two S's and then another S for business school. So sometimes the email might get typed wrong. It's support at theblackbusinessschool.com. They are available, and Amani's here to answer any questions you guys may have. But Alan, did you want to speak to some of what I just said a second ago?
No, for sure, because one of the things that I do now is I work with small businesses that are in construction or construction related areas to have businesses that run the same or better with or without them. And one of the first ways to get them to see that they're in their own way and they're kind of their own worst enemy is exactly what you just said. Is a lot of people, I would say most people like myself and others, you started working for somebody else first. I know a very few people that kind of came from a legacy company, and stuff like that. And so what happens is that when you go through traditional education, and this is where I kind of disagree with some of, like when people talk about intelligence, because I think intelligence is better suited to use our gifts and strengths for like entrepreneurship, where they're not teaching you that. Who's teaching you that? I got a master's degree in engineering, and all that taught me how to be was a masterful employee, making money for somebody else. And so, just real quick to kind of like go with what you're talking about is I ask people that are in business for themselves, or if they're just going or just getting started, I'm like, there's two different mindsets. There's an employee mindset and there's an entrepreneurial mindset. So when you want to get the entrepreneurial mindset, think of just what you just said. think of all the risks that your employer took to be able to provide you with a paycheck. And there's way more money involved that gets paid out associated with that paycheck outside of the taxes that you don't see. There's workers' comp insurance. There's a spread of the overhead, general liability insurance. There's all these other expenses that are risky. What if you don't pan out? What if you underperform? So those are the things that you have to ask from the entrepreneurial mindset that you're going to have to deal with if you decide to hang up your own shingle, so to speak. And so it's exactly what you said is that, and I hopefully I catch people while they're still working, because somebody caught me while I was still working to say, Alan, you might want to pick this position or that project, or maybe go look at this job, because that's going to help you with your sales. That's going to help you with your marketing. That's going to help you with the relationships that you're going to need in order to start and grow your business. And so I guess long story short, it's exactly what you just said, but it's also the key to unlocking opportunities. And so there's a lot of books out there about it, but one book I read kind of talked about the entrepreneurial seizure, because because the technical work of the business is different than the business that does that technical work. If you want to be successful and have that be a cash flowing asset to you, you have to understand the business that does that technical work, because that can be scaled. The technical work of the business, that's just a job. You understand what I'm saying? So many people think they're in business and they're lying to themselves. All they did was just get themselves a different job. And in most cases, it's not better, because they doing everything on the organizational chart. They the president, CEO, they the bottle washer, they going taking out the trash, they the ones dealing with unruly customers, they doing it all. And so it's just two different things, but it does require two different mindsets. And one of them to me requires investing more in yourself, which it kind of hurts me to see people not wanting to do. And that's being an entrepreneur. That really, really, why? Because you have to do a self-evaluation. Because if you have something that is an issue with you, say in terms of finances or your attitude, like you said, that's going to magnify times 10 in a business, because your businesses typically are a reflection of the owner or the owners. And so it's a development opportunity. And so I was glad that I just like having, the people that are blessed with children. Children are like little mini mirrors, because I remember one time uh when my son was young, he was doing something, and my mom happened to be around. And when he, left and did his thing, she was like, Alan, you might want to look in the mirror next time before you come at your son like that. And she was right, because all the things he was doing was stuff that he saw me do. And I got mad when he did it. You know what I'm saying? And so it was a growth opportunity. It was a development opportunity for me to realize, hey, there's certain things that like I'm doing or not doing that he's just picking up on that I need to correct. It'll be that same way in your family, that same way in your business, if you have your mindset right to be able to receive that and grow and develop, because that will grow and develop the opportunities and your ability to be successful and also be an asset to your community.
Right on. I love that. By the way, everybody, this is Alan Bean, and he is a person that knows a lot about real estate. And so I want to dig a little bit deeper into that, into the development of land and things like that, his experience there. Before I do that, I want to let everybody know that if you want to be on the text list to get an invitation to our Millionaire Training Camp, Money in the Morning, our economic elevation training that we do every single day, 7 days a week at 10 a.m. Eastern, it's free to anybody that wants to come. You don't have to pay money to be here. I just want you to pay attention. And I also want you to bring your family members who are looking to understand their economics better. So if you want to get on the text list for this class, pull out your phone, text the word morning to the phone number 87948. So text morning to the number 87948, especially if you're not inside the Zoom, because I'm about to shut that off in a second. So pull out your phone, text the word morning to 87948, and you'll get an invitation. The other thing I wanted to mention to you all also is that later on this afternoon, I am going to text out something that I put together. I put together a list of 8 apps, 8 family investing apps that you can get started with that will help you and your family investment club. A lot of you who haven't thought about forming some sort of investment club with family or friends, I encourage you to consider doing that. It is a lot of fun. It is a great way to learn. It's a great way to get closer to each other, and it's a damn great way to make money. We got some family investment clubs in here that are making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. I saw some of you at the convention. I met a family, Alan, when I was there, and this young lady told me that because she'd been in the Black Business School for a while, her family got incorporated, and they have a website, and they've made millions of dollars. They own millions of dollars in real estate now, and this is the kind of stuff that our people are doing, and I love this because I think that this is the way for our people, right? I think that there's some kind of pride in ownership that you get that you just don't get from being somebody's employee. It doesn't mean that that's bad. Hard work is fine, but I think that you got to think about who's getting the benefit from your work, and at some point you got to benefit from that because we don't live in a country that honors its workers. We don't live in a country where people, get that where they get wealthy from working. They don't. They don't. Wealth, work does not build wealth. Even saving money doesn't build wealth, and it's very sad. But ownership does build wealth. Investing does build wealth. So I personally think, Alan, that is probably that should be the top of our priority list in our skill set. And I want to ask you this too, and you can feel free to respond to that as well. Tell me about your experience in terms of land development. We have a lot of people that have had an interest in, going somewhere to a rural area, developing some property and things like that. If I was interested in that kind of thing, like where would I even begin to even fathom being able to do stuff like that?
Yeah, so the thing that I like to do is just kind of remind people, just like you did, that like there's apps out there for some different investing. I always encourage people to start with social media, YouTube University as they call it, or go to the local library and just look up real estate investing, land development, land investing, and just kind of self-education to me is like the key because if you're considering any type of investment strategy, you want to try to educate yourself. And like we all know, social media AI for instance has made it real easy to go,